how do you read all of this and make sense of it? So we need to graph it. So this blue line right here is the 8-inch sensor. This 16-inch is at this black line, and this 24-inch sensor is down here in the green line. So you can see this 8-inch is very active. A lot of root activity in this zone, and it's pulling and drying out. This got very dry all the way up to 100. And then you can see here, this purple zone in this we have a pressure sensor in the irrigation line. So when you initiate an irrigation event, that pressurizes that line, we're starting to irrigate. So this is the entire time, starting from left to right, that we irrigated. When you can see the 8-inch fell, then the 16-inch fell, and then the 24 eventually fell as well. And then they start to dry out again as the roots start to pull that moisture out of the soil. This is an underwatering event because you can see how dry that 8-inch sensor got. It got all the way up to 100. The mechanical tensiometers, they max out at around 80 to 100. It would have broke suction, and then you would have had to restart that whole thing. The electronic sensors, we can go much higher and read that. So moving on to a different scenario. This is where we put sensors in several fields, and then we told the irrigators to go ahead and continue what they're doing, irrigate as they have been, and then we're just going to monitor and try to learn what's going on. You can see here that we have 3 irrigation events right here. The tension's growing, but we're nowhere close to up in our optimal zone here. We're actually very wet, and then we hit the irrigation here, and this one starts to dry out a little bit, getting a little bit closer, but still premature. We could have easily taken out this irrigation event right here with no detrimental effect to the plants at all. All right, so what's a perfect irrigation look like? I don't know, that's hard to say, but this is a good example. So again, we have the 3 sensors. In this case, the 8-inch, the shallow sensor is very high again. The irrigation starts over here. It takes a little bit for that water to reach 8 inches. Then that sensor gets wet and it drops the tension right there. Continue to irrigate, takes a little bit longer, and then it drops the 16-inch. So now we've reached the 16-inch level with moisture in the soil. However, we turn off the irrigation right here. And this is very key that you need to learn at each of your farms where that happens, because if I continue to irrigate until I reach 24, I'm going to have way too much water. You see now that I've cut the water right here, there's still a lot of water in that soil column percolating down. So you think of it's coasting now. I took the foot off the gas, but that water is coasting down. I want to see that water come down and hit that 24, the bottom of my root zone, and just barely kiss the bottom and bounce back up. That tells me that I got that water all the way to the bottom of my root zone. I didn't over leach my field. I got the salts down to the bottom, but I didn't waste water and I didn't flood it either. So that's what I want to see, where that my deepest tensiometer or sensor just gets reached and then it comes back up. You can go into leaching events and pushing salts and stuff like that on a regular basis. This is pretty much what I'm looking for right here. Okay, what does a rain event look like? We just had some rain, not very much. But what's very interesting now is, and it's hard to see out here, but these are rain events right here in these blocks. There's a total of 0.56 inches, 0.3 inches, and 0.61 inches. So the station reads every 100th of an inch of rain. It will register that. So not only does it total it for you, but it also shows the rate at which it's falling. And so what's really important here is not necessarily how much total rain you got, it's how much effective rain you got. If it all comes down at once and then runs off your property, that's not an effective rain. And so you can see right here, there's a huge spike. So this was a bit of a downpour right here, but otherwise, this is a nice, good rate event here. These 2 slides here, this is the same event, but it's 2 different fields. But what's really interesting here is you can see as that rain event came in here, that's over a 1/2 inch. For Southern California, that's a decent sized rain. It never reached even the 8-inch sensor. Down here, that same 1/2 inch of rain, it not only hit the 8-inch, it went down and hit the 16 and dropped that one. A little bit later on, this is over a 2-day period, this rain event. We have another 1/3 of an inch, and now this top field here, it did reach the 8-inch sensor. And then over here, not till we reach over 1.5 inches of rain, did we finally get to the 16 and the 24. So it's very interesting to learn how your fields respond to your irrigation and your rain events. I can't tell you how many times the irrigation team has said, yeah, 1/3 of an inch or 1/4 inch, we're good to go. Are we? No, not really. So by knowing that, then you can make those decisions. Going one step further is going into a full automation mode. Now that we have the sensors, this system is actually capable of irrigating based on the sensor. So, and this 8-inch, this blue aqua line here, that's a start threshold, and this red line here is a stop threshold. So we can schedule an irrigation event, or for basically an irrigation schedule for our worst case scenario. What is, and for us, that's August, September-ish, where we have Santa Ana's, long dry periods, hot winds. And so if we build our irrigation schedule for that worst case scenario, we will never underwater. But what keeps us from overwatering would be the sensors. And so say it's Tuesday at 5 o'clock, or in this case, it's closer to 11:30. Schedule says it's time to irrigate. It will go and look at this threshold. And if we said we set this up for the 8-inch watermark to say that's our start threshold, it would look and say, in this case, yes, your tensiometer, you're drier than your start threshold, so go ahead and initiate the irrigation. If it was below that line, it would skip that irrigation and wait till the next scheduled event and then try again. So once it does start irrigation, the water will start to flow, and then it will flow until the sensor that you pick, in this case, it was the 16-inch sensor and the stop threshold. So once that 16-inch sensor reached that stop threshold, then it shut the valve off at whatever time that was. So worst case scenario, it will go whatever you schedule it for, the longest duration you want, but most often you will hit that stop threshold prior to reaching your time limit. So this is the information that gave us the courage, really, and the confidence. Last year, we made the decision in part of our year to cut back our irrigation by 30%. I would have never made that decision without this data. I would never have the confidence, so I'd be way too scared to make that kind of a call. But because of having that empirical data, observing what's happening in the field, we were able to make that adjustment. So the benefits of optimizing irrigation: no over or under watering, higher yields, stress reduction, lower pest and disease susceptibility. Anytime your plants are stressed, they're going to be very susceptible to pest and disease. The water conservation, electricity conservation for us, we're pumping all of that water and moving around, so it's directly tied to that as well. So tons of benefits. Again, that single biggest piece of control that we have on our crops is that when and how long we irrigate. So it's critical that we do that precisely.